Well, hello, I'm Carol Angela Davis. You guys know me as a life coach. And in this iteration of our series on making sure you are securing your retirement and your generational wealth and the long-term future of your family, I want to talk to you specifically about your veteran claim. If you are a veteran, you have a right to file a disability claim. You can file for that with the VA. And there is money that is attached to that will flow to you on a monthly basis for the rest of your life. Now, why would the VA give you money? Well, soldiers, anybody who served, they clearly understand why. There is no such thing as an unwounded soldier. Everybody knows that. But for those of you who don't know, the military understands that if you go to war, specifically, if you serve, and certainly if you go into a war theater or any kind of a hot spot, certain things happen and you're exposed to a lot of trauma or potentially exposed to a lot of trauma that most people simply are not exposed to. And they know that that has lifelong implications on your life, on your earning ability, on your ability to interact with your loved ones, etc. And so they're willing to compensate you for injuries that you sustained, invisible and visible, when you were in military service. And so I want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm an accredited VA claims representative. I also have a law degree. I was accredited by the VA back in 2014. So I've been doing claims now for almost 9 years. And this is my 9th year. And I've done tons and tons of claims successfully. And, I'd love to talk to you about your claim, but the most important thing that I can do today is give you some information to let you know that whomever you go to for your claim, and there are organizations out there that will help you, the VA itself will help you, whoever you go to, these are the kinds of things that should be on your mind. Now, the first thing is who can claim? Well, we all know that all branches of the military can claim, okay? All branches. Your discharge does come into play. General under honorable is fine, of course, honorable, but what you need to understand is for many people that have a dishonorable discharge, you can still claim, but you may have to have your discharge upgraded first. And, that's something that if you need help with, you can certainly call me or email me, and you're going to call me or at the number that's on the screen. You can call me or email me, and the number is 757 349-6819 if you need to reach me, or just email me, carolangela.davis@gmail. Okay, so that's a little bit about me, all right? Now, let's talk about you. Every branch of the military can claim, even the National Guard and the Reserve, so don't forget about that. So we have to have a conversation. You need to have a conversation with whoever does your claim so that they can understand if you are someone who was in the Reserves or the National Guard, and if you can claim. Now, how far back can you claim? Okay, folks, guess what? It doesn't matter. I don't care if you're 100 years old. If you were somehow wounded, visibly or invisibly, in the military, you can claim. So don't be afraid. A lot of veterans say this to me. I don't want to claim. I don't want to claim because I'm okay. I'm okay. And there's a lot of guys and a lot of girls who were worse off than me, and that's probably true. There probably are people that are worse off than you, but that doesn't mean that you don't deserve to be compensated for the changes that the military impacted on your life when you were serving your country. Let us not forget, we are all free because of you. So don't forget that. Okay, so you can claim as far back, Vietnam War, Korean War, doesn't matter. Whatever war you can claim, all are the same. And you can claim. Now, what about medals? What role does medals have? Well, medals are important. So if you have medals, you do want to tell the person who's doing your claim, because a lot of these things have to be, here's the thing with the VA, everything has to be substantiated, okay? The VA does not mind compensating you for the wear and tear on your body and your soul when you were in the military, but it has to be something that is really a problem, and that's typically connoted by the fact that you've gone to the doctor or you're going to the doctor for it, or that it happened, first of all. And one of the ways they know it happened, of course, is if you have a medal. So you do want to list your medals out when you're talking to your claims representative and let them know what medals you have. Again, it proves that you were in a particular theater. It proves that an incident happened and you were involved. Purple Hearts and other medals can also help to expedite your claim so that you can get your funds faster, okay? Now, let's talk about certain jobs. Folks, I'm going to tell you something. If you were in any job, theater, or whatever, okay, and you dealt with dead bodies, you could have been somebody who was working at the morgue. You could have been somebody who had to retrieve someone's body parts because after they were hit by an IED or something happened out at sea or a plane crashed or whatever it was. If you had to deal with dead bodies, you better claim, all right? Because that is very, very traumatic. Some people flew on the plane with the bodies home from the particular theater of war. That is also claimable because the military understands that is extremely traumatic, and it's even more traumatic if that person was close to you. So those people can claim. If you saw someone get killed, folks, that's very traumatic. And yes, you might, I've talked to veterans who tell me, I've been dealing with this my whole life. I've been dealing with this for 30 years. I've never claimed. I've had nightmares and night sweats. I wake up, my wife tells me, my husband tells me, my partner tells me, I'm kicking and screaming and fighting in the middle of the night, and you never claimed. You can claim. Or they'll say, yeah, I just dealt with it through drugs or alcohol or whatever it was, but they want to get that monkey off their back. You can claim. And one of the things that claiming will do is get you in therapy, which is important because therapy works. You got to deal with the demons, folks. And if you've been in the military, you've seen some stuff. All right. Also, somebody who was killed who was close to you. Could be your best buddy, your best whatever. And that person was deployed and went out and never came back. That's very traumatic. Very, very traumatic. So those people should absolutely claim and make sure you're seeing a therapist because, of course, again, the military doesn't mind paying, but they're not paying for something that isn't real. And things are real when people go to the doctor. So make sure you're seeing your doctor. And if you've been afraid to go to the therapist, the military understands that. Go now. Go now. Okay? Trust me, therapy works. Okay? So what are the requirements for filing a claim? Well, first of all, you need to make sure that you're positioned. Okay? Because you have to understand that the military gets lots of claims every day, and they need to understand what happened to you. They need to understand how it happened. In other words, you're a person. You're not only a soldier. You are a soldier, but you're also a human being, and something happened to you. So that's one of the things is you want to make sure that and there's an explanation as to what happened to you. Number two, you have to have the proper forms, and they have to be, it's the government. Okay. We know the government. You got to do it on the proper forms, and the proper forms have to be filled out the proper way. And if they're not, you're going to get denied. Full stop. I'm sorry. See, the Raiders have a lot of paperwork and coming at them every day. Okay, so when you person files your claim, they need to package it very well, but understanding how the Raider thinks so that the Raider's job is easier so they can then move on and help the next person. So that's going to be very important. And also, active duty incidents are very important. Anything that happened on active duty is important, and particularly if you went to the doctor for it, and if you didn't go now, and if you're on active duty and you're seeing this, if something happens to you, I tell all my veterans, don't be a soldier. And I mean that from the bottom of my heart because you guys are so tough and you can withstand anything. And so you don't realize sometimes that being superhuman doesn't always help you. So if something happens when you're in the military, go to the doctor, talk to the chaplain, talk to somebody and get yourself some help. Okay? All right. Now, the other thing is it's never too late. I think we talked a little bit about that. You can always claim. Now, you're probably asking me, do I have anything to claim? What does the VA pay disability claims for? Anything that happened in the military while you were on active duty. And guess what? Because we're humans and we're always aging, even when we don't want to, but we kind of do want to because we do want to get older, but it does have its drawbacks, shall we say. The body doesn't get better. The body gets worse. So you can claim what happened to you in the military, and you can claim things that whatever that was. Like, for example, let's just say you banged up your right knee. I don't know, maybe you were playing basketball and you fell, tore your ligaments, tore whatever, Achilles, whatever. You were on a profile for a while, and now it's, 15, and you got 10% for your knee. And now it's whatever, 5 years later, 10, whatever years later it is. And the knee is worse, so you can go back and let them know the knee is worse. They may want to up that percentage. But also, a lot of times, if you have one bad knee, what are you going to do? You all know what you're going to do. You're going to get off that knee and favor that other knee. Well, over time, of course, now you're putting more weight, more movement, more everything on that other knee that was a good knee. And one day the good knee starts to become a bad knee. that can also be claimed. So that's why you may have to, sometimes you have to claim over a continuum, because things don't tend to get better, unfortunately, as we age, okay? So you also should know that you can file a new claim. You can file for an increase on something that you claimed in the last few years, or it doesn't matter how many years you can claim for an increase. You can do a higher level review, for example, if you disagree with the decision that was made and you think maybe they didn't consider all the factors, you can go back on that. It's called a decision review request, and you can also file an appeal. And over in recent years, the military has made it, has used decision review requests kind of instead of appeals for the most part, because appeals take so freaking long, they take forever. And the military recognizes that, the VA recognizes that, and they want to cut down on that so that they can, deliver more decisions and get whatever compensation is required in the hands of the veteran faster. All right, also, if you're an older veteran, then your claim should be expedited. Just tell whoever's doing your claim to make sure that claim is expedited due to age, all right? Okay, now, we talked about whether or not you can go back on stuff you already claimed. The answer is yes. Talk to your claims representative, because this can be tricky, because just like the VA can give you an increase, they can give you a decrease. So you have to know how to go back on things. So just know that, okay? Talk to your claims agent. They'll tell you about that. All right, now, can a claims agent guarantee that you're going to get rated? No. And the reason for this is the VA has everything in silos, okay? Because they don't want anybody influencing anybody else about your percentage. They want the system to be pure, okay? So because of that, somebody like me or any claims representative can't guarantee you a rating. What we can do is guarantee you that we're going to write you up correctly with the proper forms, the proper documentation, telling your story the proper way, so that the people who are the raters who are reading your claim understand what you went through. Because guess what? They may not be veterans. They may not. May not know all the things that veterans go through trying to defend this country. All right, so the government, remember, is bureaucratic. Okay, so do you know what that means? That means if your paperwork is improper, deny. Doesn't mean or guess what? People the claims raters are human. Sometimes they have a bad day, and maybe they're not, or they're sick, or they're just, who knows? But they may not be giving your claim the proper attention, not intentionally, but just because just like you, everybody has a bad day. So that's why sometimes you really do have to go back on things and ask for a second look at things. Okay, but again, nobody can guarantee your rating. What a claims agent could do is guarantee that you're written up properly and that you claim everything you can. Because I was trained by the VA, and the VA says to its representatives, claim everything, let the VA sort it out. So we just claim it, tell them what happened, how it happened, why it happened, etc., and the VA will sort it out, and they'll let you know. And I'll say this about the VA. They're not trying to harm you. They're trying to help you. So they sometimes will come back and say, you should claim that a different way. And they will tell you why, when they tell you why they denied you, they'll tell you that. And that can be very helpful too. All right, so now too, I talked about veterans who say that, they don't want to claim because they're fine, somebody's worse off than them. Again, I just want to I hear it so much. And it's such an admirable quality in a person. But in this case, it actually works against you, because you don't know whatever happened to you in the military, you don't know how it's going to manifest over time. So you may not claim, but at the same time, it may get worse and worse and worse and worse. Like people who found out they had prostate cancer, they were in Vietnam where Agent Orange was sprayed, okay? 15 years later, they got prostate cancer. So you do want to make sure that your claim, you get yourself on the record. The PACT Act is out there. There's money out there for what veterans have gone through. So don't forget that, okay? All right, now, and remember this, one of the other things the VA taught me when they were training me is this, okay? You can't get a rating if you don't claim. Everybody has to claim. You cannot get a rating. Now, I'll tell you this, I think you should claim if you were a soldier because you deserve it. Because I know you've been through something, but also remember this, you have to think about your family's generational wealth, and you have to think about your own family in this day and age. You have to think about your retirement. And when you think about sources of revenue that can help to uplift your family, your service to your country, and the U.S. government's recognition of what that can do to the human body and spirit, and that's why they're willing to compensate you for it, becomes a pillar of your retirement strategy. If you're 100%, there are a host of other benefits that accrue to you and to your children and your partner. Never forget that, okay? Also, and I want to just say this to remember, there was something in the military one time, I would bring this up, called don't ask, don't tell. Okay, don't ask, don't tell caused a whole lot of problems, folks. There are a lot of people, there are women who, because they couldn't say, for example, that they were gay, they have been sexually assaulted, and the same goes for men. And all of that is claimable. So don't be afraid to claim, okay? All right, let's go on. And you just file, let the VA sort it out, as I said. There's also help for caregivers. There are veterans that have serious respiratory illnesses. There are veterans that have ALS, they have dementia, they're disabled, they have MS, and it can be tied back to their service and to their exposure to certain toxins. Guess what? There is help for you, and guess what? The VA will help give you a caregiver. Whoever's in your house taking care of you can also get remuneration for that. And again, that becomes part of your generational wealth and part of your retirement strategy, because you're not draining your everyday family funds in order to just survive. You have a little bit of a cushion because you have that extra money coming in that allows you to save, buy a house, whatever it is, and participate in the American dream. Okay? Also, make sure if you have a person who is elderly, grandpa, whatever, he's been Vietnam War, could have been World War II, I don't know. And we always told him to claim or her to claim, and they didn't want to claim, and blah, blah, blah. And now they're just too old, and they're never too old to claim. Never, ever too old to claim. And the important thing is that application has to be signed in ink by the person by the veteran. So if you need to get that done while that person is living. And if it is, even if the claim isn't finished, you still have the opportunity and the right to claim. Okay. All right. So remember, that signature is very important. All right. Now, being successful in your claim. All right. First of all, let me say this. You got to be vulnerable. All right. You guys are soldiers. Guys, and I'm saying guys, I mean everybody. He, she, they, everybody. You guys are heroes. You guys are soldiers. You guys are strong. But this is when you have to be vulnerable, because the rating is based on, how vulnerable you are in society. So for example, if, don't be too proud to say to the doctor, when the doctor says, let me see about that knee, how far can you bend it? Don't be so proud to say, well, I'll just bend it through the pain. Don't do that, because the doctor's not getting an accurate picture of what's wrong with you, and that plays out over time, okay? Remember, these injuries don't get better. I've never seen one get better. They all get worse because you get old. So don't forget that, all right? Remember that sexual harassment and sexual assault in the military are real. No one has a right to sexually harass or sexually assault you, and it causes very serious PTSD-like problems. And if that happened to you, you should be claiming. And that's male to female, male to male, female to female, female to male. It does not matter, okay? So don't be afraid of that. All right, also, we talked about don't ask, don't tell. Racism. Now, come on, folks. Racism. Now people really are recognizing how real and how debilitating and how traumatic racism is. And we all know that it's everywhere. I mean, we can see it today. It's everywhere. And certainly back in the day, it was also everywhere. So there are a lot of veterans that claim, and they've been treated very, very poorly by superiors, by all fellow soldiers, and a lot of them were, just suffered serious trauma for it. Some of them were even put out of the military for something that they didn't do. And I had one veteran tell me that he was an officer in the Vietnam War, and he went to participated in a court martial. And if he hadn't been there, the guy they were court-martialing was a black guy, but the guy who actually did it wasn't. And the only reason why that guy who was being court-martialed didn't get court-martialed is because this superior was there to speak. The black superior was there to speak up for him. So just remember that things happen. People have weed convictions. They're found with weed. Whatever it is, don't be afraid to try and address it, because things change over time. America becomes tolerant of things over time. And let's just remember, the VA is composed of human beings. And let them hear your story and let them decide, okay? All right. Also, PTSD, folks, it is real. It is real. and it strikes in so many forms. And if you're just acting differently than you used to act before there's some traumatic event, any, you don't have to see your best buddy blown up by an IED. We know that's traumatic, but there are lots of traumatic things that happen. Car accidents happen all the time. Somebody's your best friend is killed by their partner in a domestic dispute. The partner's not in the military. They were home on leave. All of these things are very, very traumatic. So don't be afraid to claim that. Again, I think I said auto accidents, motorcycle accidents, all of those kinds of things, okay? If you suffered any form of trauma, you should apply, okay? Also, I talked a little bit about discharge upgrades. Remember, you can upgrade your discharge. It's very helpful to those who have minor criminal things on their records. Very important. It's helpful to those who were thrown out for some kind of bad behavior that we now know might have been, bipolar disorder or some mental problem, or it could have been who knows? Again, it's your story. It's your story that's important. They need to know what happened, especially during Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Okay, so don't forget that. Don't be afraid to claim. All right, what if I've never gone to a doctor if you've never gone to a doctor, you can still claim, but you need to go to the doctor. Again, the military, they know how debilitating war is. They know how debilitating, and I'm saying war, but they know how debilitating it can be to serve. They're not trying to hurt you, they're trying to help you. But if you're not going to the doctor, you can't really blame them, right? Because they can't prove that there's something is this debilitating. Go to the doctor. Don't be afraid to go. All right, getting to 100%, it can be an incremental process, just so you know. Some people, they're 100% right out of the box. And some people say, but I should have been 100%. Look at all the stuff that happened to me. And maybe you are, and maybe you should, and maybe you're not, okay? But don't think that means that you can't revisit that decision, have another pair of eyes look at it with a different type of understanding, and still get to 100%. And remember, there's increases, there's supplemental claims, there's all kinds of things that you can do as you age or as your conditions worsen, and the military will recognize, the VA will recognize that and understand that for what it is. So getting to 100%, which most people want to do, I mean, who doesn't, especially if you've suffered some of this trauma that these veterans suffer, you really want to get to 100% because it really is hard to work for many people. It really is difficult to concentrate. Somebody with traumatic brain injury, somebody with certain depression, anxiety, it can be very difficult to work. So, don't give up. Don't give up hope. Just claim. That's the key. All right. And again, I talked about the importance of going to the doctor. You've got to have a record. So if you have something, you haven't gone to the doctor, go now. Just go. Start going. Talk about it. I've had veterans tell me, I haven't talked about this in 30 years. And they are just traumatized over the phone, talking to me, just really not even wanting to talk about the incident because it brings up so many terrible memories. But the fact is, therapists are very helpful. They can help you with that, help you through that, but you have to tell your story, okay? And remember, truth is paramount here with the VA. You just tell the truth. That's all they want to know, what happened. They know things happen, and they know bad things happen to good people. And they know bad things happen to bad people too, So just as long as you're being truthful about what happened, you're good. Never say anything that didn't happen or isn't true, because the VA has years and years and years of data. Trust me, they are not stupid. They know how these conditions manifest themselves. So always be truthful, and you will be rewarded for that. I'm Carol Angela Davis. You know how to reach me if you want to. And I just want, first of all, thank you for your service. If you know a veteran, thank them for their service. We are free today because of them. And know that the VA actually has your back. Thank you.